Britain is reeling. A sickening scandal has gripped the nation, exposing the horrific crimes of grooming gangs and the systemic failures that allowed them to flourish. For years, vulnerable young girls were preyed upon, abused and silenced. The authorities entrusted with their protection turned a blind eye. The scandal has sparked outrage and disbelief. How could this happen? How could those meant to protect the innocent fail so spectacularly? The public demands answers. They want justice for the victims and accountability from those in power. At the heart of the storm are Labour politicians Jess, Phillips and Keir Starmer. Their roles, past and present, are being fiercely scrutinised. Were they part of the problem, or are they being unfairly targeted? The debate rages on. One thing is clear, this scandal is far from over. It has exposed deep-seated problems within our society and our institutions. The fight for justice has just begun. The grooming gangs scandal has revealed a chilling truth. The very institutions meant to protect the vulnerable have failed them catastrophically. Police, social services, even the Crown Prosecution Service all stand accused of negligence, incompetence and a shocking lack of compassion. Time and again, warning signs were ignored, victims were dismissed, their stories disbelieved, perpetrators were allowed to operate with impunity, their crimes brushed under the carpet. Why? Fear, apathy, political correctness, a toxic cocktail that allowed evil to thrive. The consequences have been devastating. Countless lives shattered, childhoods stolen. The victims robbed of their innocence, left to carry the scars of abuse. The public betrayed by those they trusted to keep them safe. This is a stain on our nation's conscience, a stark reminder that even in a civilized society, darkness can lurk in the shadows. For years, the victims of these horrific crimes suffered in silence. Their pleas for help ignored, their cries for justice unanswered. They were failed by the system, betrayed by those who should have protected them. Now they are demanding action. They want to know how this could happen, how the authorities could have allowed such widespread abuse to continue for so long. They want accountability, they want justice. But their calls for a full, independent inquiry have been met with resistance. Jess Phillips, now a shadow minister, argues that local investigations are sufficient, but for the victims, this is simply not enough. They demand a national reckoning, a full exposure of the truth. Their voices deserve to be heard. Their pain must not be ignored. The time for excuses is over. The time for action is now. Sir Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party, finds himself at the centre of the storm. His tenure as head of the Crown Prosecution Service from 2008 to 2013 has come under intense scrutiny. Critics allege that under his watch, the CPS failed to prioritise the prosecution of grooming gangs. They point to a culture of complacency and political correctness that allowed abusers to escape justice. Starmer has defended his record, insisting that he took the issue seriously and worked to improve the CPS's response. But for many, his explanations ring hollow. They demand to know why, under his leadership, so many perpetrators were allowed to walk free. The scandal has cast a long shadow over Starmer's political ambitions. His judgment, his competence, his very integrity are being called into question. Can he survive this storm? Only time will tell. Section 5, Musk's bombshell social media erupts. The grooming gang scandal took an explosive turn when Elon Musk, the outspoken billionaire, waded into the fray. In a series of tweets, he accused Starmer of failing to protect children and suggested that political correctness had blinded him to the truth. Musk's intervention ignited a firestorm on social media. His comments, while controversial, resonated with many who believe that the establishment has consistently downplayed the scandal. The mainstream media, often accused of ignoring or minimizing the issue, found itself under attack. Musk's tweets, for better or worse, had shone a spotlight on a scandal that many would rather have kept hidden. The debate rages on, fueled by social media's insatiable appetite for controversy. One thing is certain, the grooming gang scandal is no longer a taboo subject. It is now a national conversation, and one that is unlikely to quieten anytime soon. Section 6, the inquiry debate, justice delayed or justice denied. The call for a full, independent inquiry into the grooming gang scandal is growing louder by the day. Victims, campaigners, and many politicians believe it is the only way to uncover the full truth and ensure accountability, but the government remains resistant. They argue that local investigations are sufficient and that a national inquiry would be costly and time-consuming. Their opponents accuse them of trying to sweep the scandal under the carpet. The debate centers on a fundamental question: what price justice? Is it acceptable to prioritize cost and efficiency over a thorough investigation into such horrific crimes? For the victims, the answer is clear. Justice delayed is justice denied. The government's reluctance to launch a full inquiry has only fueled suspicions that they have something to hide. The pressure is mounting, and they can only resist for so long. The truth, as they say, will out. Section 7. Political correctness, a stifling hand on justice. A recurring theme in the grooming gang scandal is the toxic influence of political correctness. Time and again, we hear accusations that the authorities were afraid to act for fear of appearing racist or Islamophobic. The perpetrators, in many cases, were of South Asian origin. This fact, it is alleged, led to a culture of self-censorship, where concerns were ignored and investigations were hampered. The result, countless children were left at the mercy of their abusers. Political correctness, while well-intentioned, can have dangerous consequences. When it prevents us from confronting uncomfortable truths, it becomes a tool for oppression, a shield for the wicked. In the case of the grooming gang scandal, it is clear that a misguided sense of tolerance allowed evil to flourish. We must never be afraid to speak truth to power, to challenge injustice wherever we find it. The safety and well-being of our children must always come first, regardless of race, religion, or any other consideration. Section 8. A crisis of accountability. Who will take responsibility? The grooming gang scandal has exposed a crisis of accountability at the heart of our institutions. Police, social services, the CPS, all have been found wanting, but where does the buck stop? Who will take responsibility for these catastrophic failures? So far, we have seen a depressing lack of accountability. Resignations have been few and far between. Apologies, while welcome, ring hollow without concrete action. The public is right to demand more. Those in positions of power must be held accountable for their actions, or in this case, their inaction. We need a full and transparent investigation, followed by meaningful reform. Only then can we begin to rebuild trust in our institutions. This is not about blame. It is about justice. It is about ensuring that such horrific crimes are never allowed to happen again. Section 9. The fight continues, demanding justice and protection. The grooming gang scandal is a stark reminder that we cannot take our freedoms for granted. The right to safety, to justice, to a childhood free from abuse. These are fundamental rights that must be fiercely protected. The fight for justice for the victims of these horrific crimes continues. They deserve to have their voices heard, to see their abusers held accountable. They deserve to heal and rebuild their lives. But this is not just about the past, it is about the future. We must learn from the mistakes that allowed this scandal to happen. We must do everything in our power to ensure that no child ever has to endure such horrors again. This requires a collective effort. We must demand better from our leaders, our institutions, and ourselves. We must be vigilant, outspoken, and unwavering in our commitment to protecting the vulnerable. The fight continues.